Welcome aboard. Tonight we sail the maritime Silk Road, a sailor's journey from the 15th century. Life is hard. The food is bad. The clothes are stiff with salt. The work is endless. There is little to see except the vast ocean and the occasional dolphin. Storms can last for weeks. Men get injured or sick and die. The captain punishes anyone who runs away. But sometimes, just sometimes, the ship will be becalmed in a sea of tranquility, and you can almost taste the exotic spices and silks of the far-off port. And then there are the treasures, riches beyond your wildest dreams, carried on board by the thousands. It's enough to make a grown man weep. And when the treasures are lost to storms or greedy pirates, the ocean depths become the final resting place for those riches. Finally, after months at sea, you reach land, a vibrant, bustling port where merchants and princes live lives of luxury and excess. Far from the hardships of the sailors who made their fortunes possible, so breathe deeply, feel the rhythm of the waves, and let the ocean's embrace transport you to a world of adventure and intrigue. Zheng, he was used to luxury. Born into noble family in the 14th century, he enjoyed the finest food and clothes, but his life changed dramatically when he fell sick with a high fever. Hearing he had only days to live, Zheng He's father, a converted Muslim, asked a local preacher for help. The man prayed over him and healed him. Grateful Zheng, he converted to Islam and took the name Ma. He went on to become one of history's greatest explorers. In 1405, Emperor Hongwu of China ordered a massive fleet of ships to be built. It was unlike anything the world had ever seen. The largest vessels were nearly 400 feet long, almost as big as modern aircraft carriers. The fleet's mission to explore the world, historians believe there were three main reasons for the voyages. First, the Chinese wanted to find new sources of gold and silver. Second, they wished to show the world the power of the Chinese emperor. And third, they wanted to learn about other cultures. Under Zheng He, the fleet set sail from the Chinese port of Tiangdu. Today, that port is known as Ningbo. We don't know exactly how many ships were in the fleet, but historians say it probably had between 200 and 500 vessels, including cargo ships, troop transports, and warships. The fleet also carried thousands of men. One record says there were 30,000 sailors, soldiers, and marines, but that number has been heavily disputed. The treasure ships, as the large vessels were called, were made from wood that was mostly fir and pine. This may not sound like an impressive material, but the Chinese shipbuilding techniques were so advanced that they were able to construct ships that remained afloat for decades. In fact, modern researchers have suggested that the Chinese invented the principles of buoyancy and displacement. They figured out how to calculate the amount of weight a ship can carry based on its size and shape. The ships were equipped with multiple masts and square sails that allowed them to catch the wind more efficiently. According to legend, the largest ship could hold 5,000 tons of cargo. Most of the ships were also equipped with rudders, which allowed them to travel more quickly and turn more isolated. The Chinese fleet reached places that few Europeans would see for centuries. During their travels, they explored Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Malaysia, and East Africa. Zheng He also led an expedition up the Persian Gulf as far as modern-day Yemen. From there, some of his ships traveled across the Red Sea to the Middle East. Their traders bartered for silk, porcelain, and other Chinese goods. But the voyages were not all smooth sailing. In 1413, one of Zheng He's ships ran aground in Southeast Asia. He spent a year getting the vessel free and repairing the damage. When he finally got back to China, he was ordered to keep exploring. But after making it to India, he realized he didn't have enough supplies to get home. So he turned around and headed back. His fourth voyage was cut short when he reached the Malay Peninsula and found that two of his treasure ships had been lost in a storm. By this point, the Chinese emperor had grown tired of the costly expeditions. The following year, he disbanded the fleet and ordered Zheng He to return to China. When Zheng He arrived, he was given a hero's welcome. People lined the streets to greet him, and the emperor awarded him the title of Grand Counselor, a noble title reserved for important government officials. But the emperor's attitude toward exploration soon changed. After Zheng He's fleet was disbanded, he became convinced that China needed to focus on defense, not discovery. He ordered the construction of a massive wall across the country and spent billions of dollars on weapons. Sadly, Zheng He died in 1433, and his legacy faded from memory. But the story shouldn't end there. Zheng He's voyages changed the course of history. The Chinese had the opportunity to colonize Southeast Asia, control the lucrative spice trade, and rule much of Africa. Instead, they chose not to. The decision to stop the voyages and build a wall across China may have saved the country in the short term, but it also cut China off from potential centuries of growth. When you think about famous explorers, you may have heard of Marco Polo, Ferdinand Magellan, or Christopher Columbus. But compared to Zheng He, their journeys were quite small. Zheng He explored more of the world than anyone else during his time. With 200 to 500 ships and thousands of crew members, his fleet was bigger than any navy in the world. As you continue your journey through ancient history, keep an eye out for the name Zheng He. He may not be as famous as some of the other explorers you've learned about, but he deserves to be. Thanks for watching. The year is 1424 and you are a sailor on one of Zheng He's treasure ships. Your life has been reshaped by the decision to join the fleet. Perhaps you were a farmer drawn to the promise of adventure and riches beyond the seas. Maybe you were a former soldier seeking new challenges beyond the borders of China. Whatever your beginnings, you have traded them in for the rolling rhythms of the waves, the creak of rigging, and the salty sting of spray. Life on a treasure ship is not easy. Despite the size and power of the vessel, it is a world of cramped quarters and endless tasks. The stench of waste and sweat hangs heavy in the air, mixing with the cries of gulls and the slap of water against wood. Discipline is everything. Captains watch for signs of mutiny and disobedience. Loot taken in port must be registered and given up if ordered by higher officers. Despite this, there are moments of beauty amidst the grime. When the fleet arrives at a new port, the sight of the treasure ships towering over local boats creates a spectacle that draws gasps and awe. The dragon-head figurehead that adorns the front of the ship, a symbol of China's imperial power, seems to leap from the waves. Each voyage is a journey into the unknown. Your first time out to sea, you are haunted by whispers of monsters and mythical creatures that dwell in the ocean's depths. Then there are the storms, sudden and violent, whipping the sea into a frenzy and testing the strength of the ship. You learn to navigate by the stars, to read the winds, and to respect the power of the sea. With every successful voyage, you feel the pride of being part of something larger than yourself, a demonstration of China's power and sophistication. Yet there are dangers beyond the horizon. The open ocean can be unforgiving, tearing at the seams of the biggest ship. Storms can shatter masts and topple cargo. Pirates with their fast, maneuverable boats sometimes attack, hoping to plunder the riches of the treasure ships. Sometimes, though, it is not the sea or the elements that pose the greatest threat, but other ships like yours. Competition for trade and resources can turn into deadly contests on the waves. The pressure to succeed weighs heavily on the sailors. Failure is not an option. You have left behind the familiar shores of China for a life at sea, embracing the challenge and the uncertainty of the waves. You do so knowing that your journey is not just about finding fortune or glory, but about pushing the boundaries of what is possible and bringing honor to the empire. Zheng He's fleet is not just a group of ships sailing the seas, it is a microcosm of the world itself. A place where fortunes are made and lost, where danger lurks around every bend, and where the relentless rhythm of the waves is a constant reminder of both the power and the fragility of human endeavor. The stories of the sailors on these grand vessels echo with the hopes and dreams of ordinary people, forever bound to the sea and its mysteries. What do you think? How would you feel standing on the deck of one of Zheng He's treasure ships, watching the other vessels of the fleet sail away? Would you feel excitement, fear, sadness, pride? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed this experience, don't forget to leave a like and share with a friend. Subscribe for more journeys through history. And until next time, keep exploring. In 1405, a Chinese treasure fleet carrying untold riches embarked on a journey across the Indian Ocean. Led by the eunuch Admiral Zheng He, these massive ships laden with silk, spices, and gold set sail for the far reaches of the known world. Their mission: to display the wealth and power of the Ming dynasty and establish trade networks that would bring back even greater fortunes. But the ocean is vast and it remembers everything. Ships that once carried silk and porcelain, spices and silver, lie silent now, hidden beneath layers of sand and coral. For every vessel that returned safely to port, there were others that did not. The Indian Ocean, with its unpredictable winds and sudden storms, claimed countless ships, leaving behind mysteries that continue to whisper across centuries. What happened to the ships that sank? Where are the treasures they carried now? To answer these questions, we begin our journey at the bottom of the ocean, where the wrecks of these treasure fleets slumber. Beneath the surface, a different world unfolds. Sunken hulks overgrown with coral, silent witnesses to the power of the deep. Imagine descending into this watery realm where sunlight fades and the muffled sounds of the surface world drift away. Here, among the kelp forests and vibrant coral heads, the ghosts of ships from the 15th century rest in pieces. The grand vessels that once proudly sailed the open seas are now scattered across the ocean floor, their holds filled with treasures lost to time. Over the centuries, these underwater graveyards have become home to a myriad of sea creatures. Schools of silver-colored fish weave in and out of shattered planks, while barnacles and anemones have transformed the masts into eerie underwater gardens. As you explore these submerged ruins, you might come across a shard of fine Chinese porcelain, a testament to the once vibrant cargo that filled these ships. Or perhaps you'll stumble upon a deck strewn with cannonballs, silent reminders of battles fought on the high seas. But the ocean's embrace is not just confined to ships. It has also claimed countless lives. The sailors who perished on these voyages lie beneath the waves, their souls forever entwined with the mysteries of the deep. The stories of these men and women, often overlooked in the annals of history, are preserved in the watery depths. As you swim alongside crumbling cabins, you might catch a glimpse of personal belongings, a sailor's pipe or a woman's comb, each item a poignant reminder of the human cost of maritime adventures. As I continued my journey down, I thought about the stories these wrecks carry. Each scar on the ocean floor tells a tale of adventure, ambition, and sometimes tragedy. They are a testament to the relentless spirit of exploration that has driven humanity across the seas for centuries. Sunken treasure fleets, lost at the bottom of the ocean, forever bound to the watery depths. Their disappearance serves as a reminder of the unforgiving nature of the sea, a humbling reminder of the forces that have shaped our world. From the rolling decks and the silent seabed, we now step onto solid ground. The ports of the maritime Silk Road were as vital as the ships that reached them. They were crossroads of cultures, where sailors staggered ashore weary and salt-stained, while merchants and princes lived surrounded by wealth and comfort, profiting from the goods that passed through their hands. Imagine arriving in Calicut on the Malabar coast of India, sometime in the 15th century. The harbor is busy, filled with ships from Arabia, Africa, and China. The air is heavy with the scent of pepper and cardamom, mingled with the salt of the sea. Markets overflow with textiles, ivory, and precious stones. For the sailor, stepping into such a place was overwhelming, a sudden immersion in color, sound, and abundance after weeks of monotony at sea. But while sailors slept on hard decks and survived on stale rice, the merchants of these ports lived in tiled houses with shaded courtyards. They dined on fresh fruits, rich curries, and cool water drawn from stone cisterns. Their wealth came not from toil at sea, but from calculation, buying low, selling high, investing in ships, and collecting their share of the profits when the cargo was sold. Farther west, in the ports of Arabia, Aden, Muscat, or Jeddah palaces rose behind high walls. Rulers collected tribute from foreign ships, enforcing taxes on cargo, ensuring that no merchant could trade without their blessing. Here, caravans from the desert met ships from the sea. Gold from Africa, incense from Arabia, and textiles from India mingled in the bazaars, where silk from China might be sold beside frankincense that had burned in temples since ancient times. In East Africa, cities like Kilwa and Mombasa grew rich on this trade. Coral stone mosques rose above the narrow streets. Merchants in flowing robes hosted banquets where roasted meats, rice, and dates were served on fine imported porcelain that, not long before, had been stacked in the dark holds of ships, guarded by weary sailors. For local rulers, the sea brought not hunger and danger but power, prestige, and the means to display their greatness. And in Southeast Asia, ports such as Malacca, the diversity was even greater. Malay traders mingled with Chinese envoys, Indian merchants, Arab navigators, and African sailors. Ships crowded the straits, waiting for favorable tides. Markets bustled with dozens of languages spoken at once. Wealth concentrated in the hands of rulers who taxed the trade. Their palaces decorated with imported luxuries, silks that shimmered in candlelight, spices that perfumed their halls, gems that glittered on crowns and weapons alike. The contrast between sea and shore was stark. For sailors, a voyage might mean months of hardship only to be paid a modest wage at the end. For merchants and princes, those same voyages meant riches flowing in with each tide. The sailor endured storms and rats, spoiled food, and fear. The merchant enjoyed shaded courtyards, fine meals, and the comfort of knowing that the risks of the sea fell on others. Still, there was a strange connection between them. Without the sailors, the ports would fall silent. Without the ports, the voyages would have no purpose. The Silk Road at sea was built on this balance. Hardship carried by some, wealth enjoyed by others. So as you picture the bustle of a port city, the calls of merchants, the fluttering of banners above palace walls, you might also hear faintly the creak of ships in the harbor, the weary footsteps of sailors coming ashore. One world depended upon the other, and together they shaped a network that stretched across half the globe. Now, as we leave these markets and palaces behind, let us draw the voyage to a gentle close. We have traced the life of the sailor, the grandeur of Zheng He, the silence of shipwrecks, and the wealth of princes. All are parts of the same story, a story carried by the winds of the Indian Ocean. If you've enjoyed this journey across the maritime Silk Road, we invite you to continue exploring with us. Click on the screen to subscribe and be among the first to know when new adventures are set sail. Together, we can uncover more stories of the past and bring them to life, like the bustling ports along the Silk Road. Your support helps us keep our educational videos free for everyone. So thank you for joining us on this adventure. Until next time, may your sails be full and your journeys filled with discovery.